In our Spotlight on Business report, a new front in the world of sports betting is under scrutiny. As the NFL season kicks off tonight, online gamblers are expected to be busy on their phones placing bets. But a fast-growing trend called microbetting is drawing sharp criticism from both mental health experts and some lawmakers who say it's dangerously addictive and are going so far as to propose a ban on microbetting altogether. For more on this, I'm joined by our mental health reporter, Bobby Breyer, to explain why it's under fire and what a ban would do to the online gambling industry here. Bobby, good to see you. So for those of us not in the know, what is microbetting and why is it so dangerous?
Sure, Bree, microbetting is interesting in that it's this fast-paced type of in-game betting. Essentially, it would allow for a gambler to place a bet on a specific event that's about to happen. Essentially, that would look like whether or not the next play in a football game, like tonight's game against the Eagles or the Cowboys, would be a pass or a run, or it may look like whether or not a pitcher would throw a ball or a strike at the next at-bat. That really has been shown to be addictive for many people, especially young men right now. And it's something that's really growing in popularity. I recently had the chance to speak with Dan Casino of Fairleigh Dickinson University, who really knows about this. And he spoke to me more about some of the problems that are associated with microbetting. And here's what he had to say about it.
When you start having these very small bets in there during these micro bets during a game, are they going to run or are they going to pass on this play? How many yards is that punt going to go? That gives you instant feedback. And that instant feedback is what makes them so dangerous, because you can be betting in the Super Bowl. We see times you have more than 100 bets in a single game. And that's really terrifying because you can be making bet after bet after bet after bet. You get it right, you get it wrong. Well, that's just like playing a slot machine. And it makes it much more addictive.
And Bree, as Dan points out in that video, those quick, instant bets are really what experts have told me triggers dopamine releases in a person's brain. As we know, dopamine is that neurotransmitter that functions as a person's reward system that often controls mood and motivation and memory. If that instant dopamine release happens again and again and again, like it does in microbetting, it changes the brain's chemistry over time. And that's really what public health officials, advocates, and now lawmakers are concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. It's like a rapid fire system that you're going through, which obviously keeps you engaged in the game, but also in continuing to make bets. What type of proposals then are on the table? I know that there's legislation that's been put out there. What exactly is it looking to do?
Yeah, right now it's interesting. This is a bill that has been sponsored by Assemblyman Dan Hutchinson out of South Jersey. And essentially what this would allow for is for a complete ban on microbetting. So that would penalize sports books or people from placing or offering a specific wager on a microbet. This would carry right now, at least as the bill stands, a criminal penalty and a monetary fine as well. Currently a criminal penalty of a disorderly persons offense, along with a $500 to $1,000 fine per bet. But it's important to note right now, this is still a bill that has not been introduced in either the Senate or the Assembly. It is still in its draft legislation, and it's something that Hutchinson told me he expects to have a significant amount of pushback, at least from the casino industry right now.
Yeah, I mean, what are the folks in the industry and the sports books saying?
Many have said that this is not only the most popular type of gambling, but it's one that could continue to bring in revenue for the state. As we know, the state has a vested interest in continuing to promote the interest of casinos because, of course, that helps to bring in tax revenue in many situations. But it also should be noted that, Hutchinson's main focus for this bill, at least what he told me, stems from his own work as a bankruptcy attorney. He had mentioned a client recently who decided to gamble rather than to pay his mortgage. And it really is something that flagged an issue for him that could be grow more and more as this issue kind of continues. It's also interesting to note right here that we're beginning an NFL season that has an estimated $30 billion expected from Americans to wager on. That's according to some of the latest numbers from the American Gaming Association. But it's also coming at a time when the World Series is coming in October, a very hot time for gambling. In New Jersey here, we'll see the FIFA World Cup next year, another especially interesting time for gambling. So more to come on this, but especially interesting from Hutchinson here.
Yeah, I mean, given all of that, I would imagine it's going to be pretty difficult politically to get something like this done when they're bringing in more revenue than ever and expected to bring in even more.
That's right, and we're going to see this play out if it does get introduced and come up to a vote in either the Senate or Assembly. I imagine long-term hearings or discussions about revising this bill potentially, or also what other issues could come to the forefront before it actually gets to the governor's desk for a signature. So there's a long runway here before this bill would actually be signed into law, but an interesting development here that lawmakers have spotted as to the rise in microbetting and what many experts have called a serious public health concern.
Bobby, great reporting as always. You can read Bobby's full story on this and more on our website, njspotlightnews.org. Thanks as always.
Thank you, Bree.
Support for the Business Report is provided by Riverview Jazz, presenting the Jersey City Latin Jazz Festival, September 5th through 6th. Event details, including performance schedules and location, are online at jerseycitylatinjazzfestival.com.